Chuck is one of my favorite. People are going to think that they're all my favorite. Yeah, actually, you know what? I really love this authors and speakers, and it's great to get to know them, to have them a part of this conference. And I'm going to bring Chuck on right now. Chuck. Hi, Chuck.
Dude, I'm trying.
Oh, there we are. Yes.
All righty. And should I start the video now or what?
Yes.
All right. The video is started.
Wow, Chuck. That's a great background that you have there.
Isn't that nice? See, it's just, that background is as illusory as I am. So there you are.
Chuck, before he retired to Virginia, Chuck worked professionally for almost 30 years as a state-licensed psychotherapist in California, as a popular author of 5 easy-to-understand books on non-dualism. Chuck's writings and interviews have been published in 10 languages. Again, one of the books that I read as an explorer is Seeds of Love, which I really, really love. I'm going to give the mic to Chuck. He's going to do a presentation. If you guys want to ask questions, type it in the Q&A. Thank you, Chuck.
A quick correction. It's Seeds for the Soul.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Sorry. Yes. Seeds for the Soul.
Seeds for the Soul.
I wrote it right here as Seeds of the Soul. But
all right.
But I just like went through Chuck Hillig. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I want to thank both of you guys, all of you guys that were involved in putting this thing together. It's quite an endeavor, and I want to thank you for inviting me into it. As you may or may not know, I do not give talks. I have not given a talk in 2 years. I used to talk a lot at the Science and Non-Duality conference and stuff, but as a rule, I don't give satsangs. I don't give workshops. I don't do retreats. I don't do seminars or anything like that. It's just not my jam, as they say. What I seem to be doing now is wandering around in this pathless land that we call non-duality. Krishnamurti talked about truth as a pathless land, and let's wander around in it during the next, I don't know, however long I go before something, before the energy seems to lose me and we just seem to peter away, and then you'll jump in with some kind of questions for this. So first of all, how are you all doing out there? I know that it's been a long slog today. You've been listening to 7 other speakers and 10 yesterday, if you were, hardcore, and they were asking a lot of questions and there were a lot of answers. And I'm sure you've noticed that whenever there's a question, there's an answer that comes along with it, much like different sides of the same coin. And maybe you're wondering, will it ever come a time when there won't be any more questions, when you'll come to the end of your questioning? I don't know. See, because there's a point where you leap off away from the understanding of it. And the image that comes to mind when I think about that is much like a big hole, a big void, and around the edges of that void are all the organized religions. They've all camped up and set up, different camps and campsites. And then there's spiritual philosophies. And then all these teachers of every brand and every possible shade and variety, they're all around that too. And they're carnival barking, they're saying, oh, come on into my tent and I'll show you this and I'll show you that. Believe this, and here's that dogma, and do this strategy and follow this path, and somehow that's going to work. Well, however, some of them point into the void. They say, go there. But meanwhile, while you're thinking about going there, I have other things I can sell you over here. Well, this is all that I think non-duality is. It's having the courage, and I'm choosing my words carefully, to just walk away from everything you think you know, everything that you believe in, everything that you hold near and dear, and just forget about it. Just say, I'm just letting it go. I'm letting it behind me, and I'm going to step off into this void and free fall on the way down, and not cling to anything. Not cling to anything. Just give it all away, and not even cling to, I'm not going to cling to anything. You've got to throw away that one too. So you can't have anything there. So there you are, free falling into nothingness. And where do you end? Is there a happy landing? Is there a landing place that you'll ever come into? And the answer is, of course, no. All there is this falling into this emptiness, emptying out of emptiness, beyond the emptiness. Now, you know, when I've been tuning in off and on over the last couple of days, listening to these teachers. They're all wonderful. I love them all. And they give you content. And you know, I'm sure, I would suspect that at some point, you know, you may be taking notes about this and that and that and this. Oh, this is a great jewel. This is a great gem. I got to write that down. And you write it down. You put it in your little non-dual book or store it in your biocomputer. Ah, that's really great. That's going to be so enriching and enlightening for me. Well, listen, I'm quite a bit different than that. I ain't going to give you any content. Content, I mean, that, you know, that's what you get when you go to school. Well, this is not a school. This is not about content. I'm not going to try to give you further content, further understanding or intellectualizing about what this is about. This is the core of non-dualism, the core of Advaita, flies in the face of everything intellectual, everything that has any kind of possibility of cerebration, where you can figure it out, where you can wrap your hands in your arms and cling to it and say, this is it. Because it's like quicksilver, it's like capturing the wind. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to let go of it. And non-dualism is that way. It just slips away from you. So can you be in that space of not knowing, not understanding? Not knowing, not understanding, which comes right out of the Zen literature. Just to be in that space of not knowing. I don't understand it, I don't get it, but there's something there that has attracted you because, let me guess, you probably had some organized religion background. You had some kind of foundation in spirituality, which, as you went along and got older, it began to become less heart-based, less satisfying for you. And you perhaps began to ask questions about things, and the organized religion that you had been following wasn't able to respond in a way that moved you, that moved your heart. So, and this is kind of my story, I put aside all of that and wandered figuratively for a number of years in my 20s until somebody turned me on to Eastern philosophy, and I started to read everything I could on that. And then in January of 1970, 50 years ago, if we're telling a story here about the relative world, I fell at the feet of Ramana Maharshi, and has been really in that connection with him for half a century. Now that's the story. And that's an interesting story, and we all have our stories. You have one too. I would suspect that if I asked you, you could tell me the date you were born. You could tell me probably who your parents were. You could tell me who your siblings were, maybe your best friends, where you went to grade school, where you went to high school, some of the things that happened to you in high school, that big party and so forth, and maybe you got drunk, and maybe you got laid, and then you went to college perhaps, and then you know, in your 20s, and then you got married, and then you had a child, and then you had two, and then you had problems in your relationship, and then you divorced, and then you wandered around and maybe started dating, and now you were in your 30s and had jobs. All this is your story. This is the thing that you're dragging along, that you answer with your story when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, tell me about yourself. And you trot it out. You say, this is who I am. This is what's true for me. This is exactly who I am. I am my story. Well, take a look at your hand. Right now, look at your hand. You know, that thing at the end of your arm. Do you refer to that? Do you say that's my hand? Or do you say that is me? There's a difference. Because if you say that's my hand, then you're going to have to say, well, that's my leg, and this is my arm, and this is my head, and these are my thoughts, and these are my feelings, and these are my words, and these are my actions. And there's a sense of ownership. And can you feel the contraction going around as you kind of bring it all in and make it all about you, this ego? Like, what the hell is that thing doing? I mean, like, where did that come from? What's the sense of I am something that's separate? Well, you know the story. When you were a little infant, you began to differentiate yourself from your mother's breast and from the crib, and these other strange little creatures running around and the big creatures up here. And you said, wow, I'm different from them. And you had a sense of self. And you had a sense of, I can do this over here. I can go to the bathroom over here and not over here. What's up with that? So you kind of have this sense of self that you've built up over the years. But then what do you do with that? How do you get beyond that? What is the ego? The ego is like a point of view. It's a point of view that has, in a sense, fallen in love with itself. It kind of, you know, feeds back on itself because it has this belief that it somehow is like hardware. Hardware when it's really software. It's like a software application that's been installed when you were very, very young, but it likes to pretend like it's part and parcel with who you are. You are this, as opposed to it's been installed inside you. Now, look, if it's an application, you can delete that. What will that look like? If you didn't have an ego, well, you'd still have that body there. You'd still be a body there. Maharishi and Nisargadatta, they had bodies, but they were not persons. They were not persons. They had a personality, but they were not persons. See the difference? You know, let's clear something up right now. You probably believe you are a person. And I understand why you think that. Because part of why you want to think that is you look at Maharishi and Nisargadatta and maybe Buddha and Christ, and you see that they're all people. And as long as they're a person over there, then you're a person over here. So you have to keep your belief in their personage over there for you to maintain the fact that you are a person over here. But consider the possibility, and by the way, as a little side note, I do not want you to believe anything I say. Don't believe anything I say, whatever you do, because I don't want you to trade in your beliefs for what you think are my beliefs. Not about belief. The invitation is go look for yourself. Go look for yourself. What I'm presenting here is just like a buffet. There's a buffet, a lot of stuff on the table here. And I want you to pick and choose what works for you, like a little, you know, plate of food. If you went to a real buffet, you're not going to eat absolutely everything on the table. You're going to pick and choose. I want you to pick and choose this. But for your own interest and edification, notice that moment when you begin to take a step back from what I'm pointing at. And you'll say, oh, I know where he's going, and I don't go there. That's too remote, and it's not. No. But just watch when you start to get a little resistance going on, because that's really interesting. Just notice it. I'm not making you wrong about it, but just notice when that shows up. All right, so back to Buddha. So as long as they're real people, then you're a real person too. However, let's just assume that you are creating everything. Let's just go there. I'm not saying it's true, but I just want you to consider that everything that you see, everyone that you see, has its origin within you. Within you. I'm not the first one to say this. Rumi said, "Why do you weep?" Rumi said. He said, the source is within you. The source is within you, and this whole world is springing up from you. He didn't say it's springing up from us. He says it's springing up from you. Buddha said, with your thoughts, he didn't say with my thoughts or with our thoughts. He said, with your thoughts, you create the world. Again, he didn't say you create your world. He didn't say you create your world. He said you create the world. This whole world is springing up from that. Nisargadatta, he said, you're having a dream. And the dream is not your problem, Nisargadatta said. He said, your problem is you only like one part of your dream over here and you don't like the other part over here. That becomes problematic when you resist what you've created. And so I invite you just to look at your life, because I guarantee you, at the end of these talks, you're going to go back to your ordinary workaday, down in the marketplace life again, just as it was. You will still have, I guarantee it, your mortgage, your car payments, your issues with your kids. You'll still have to deal with, oh, I gotta, paint the house. I have to do this. I have to mow the grass. All of the stuff, the regular, secular, everyday concerns in the world are still waiting for you right now. Now, how are you going to take what you're learning during this time and apply that to your everyday? How are you going to take that to work tomorrow? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to say, wow, I learned something? And people at work, they're going to say, wow, I understand that you were tuning in on this nothing conference. Tell me about it. What did you learn? Show me the content. And you'll go, well, I learned this and I learned that. Like you have to trot it out and justify the time that you spent in being here. But where these people come from, if you really, really look for it, and if we really sit in it, what did Maharishi say? He said, there are no others. Now you can say, oh, he didn't really mean it that way. Just figuratively, it's a figure of speech. No, I think Maharishi meant exactly what he said. I think Rumi meant exactly what he said. I think Buddha meant exactly what he said. But if you resist that, if you say, no, I'm too small for that. I'm too contracted for that. I will not be responsible for having created this room that I'm sitting in. Just look around the room where you're sitting in right now. Look at the room. Look at the chair, the floor, the ceiling. Look out the window. Do you see the window? Do you see traffic? Do you see trees? Do you see leaves moving in the breeze? Those leaves, they're moving just for you. Yeah, I know you think, oh no, that's the breeze. No, they're showing up in your space just for you. The proof of it is you're seeing them. They're part of your experience right now. They are presenting themselves to you as you own it all. And that's where the real challenge is, to own your own divinity, to own your own divine heritage, to recognize that you are what is. You are the consciousness you seek, which is kind of silly when you think, well, I'm trying so hard to be where I already am. Well, that's part of the game. You're very good at pretending. Maharishi said, it's all a great game of pretending. It's all a great game of just pretending. And then pretending that you're not pretending. And then to forget all of it and to get lost in your own entanglements and your own psychodramas. Oh, it's great stuff, isn't it? I mean, like the chaos and the excitement and the horror and the agony. I mean, like this is the stuff that great dramas are made out of. And you're in the middle of it. And instead of fighting it, you could just go, wow, my life is falling apart. This is just amazing. Let's see, I can't wait to see what happens next. Well, I don't know what's going to happen next. Find out. Go live it. Because it's living through you. Consciousness is expressing itself through the instrument of your body. That's what you are. This is the only thing that actually is. What is reality? You know, reality is that which persists unchanged in all states. All states. The waking state, you know what that is? The dream state, when you're asleep and dreaming, and the dreamless sleep state. That thing, that part, that energy, that isness that stays the same, remains unchanged, that's real. If anything changes or transforms or evolves or mutates, then it's an illusion. It's an illusion. And it's fascinating when you think of the energy that you have that is creating all of this. It's really kind of a triumvirate between the energy of creation. You are Brahman. You are the constant creator of everything. You are constantly creating, because that's your nature, to create constantly. And it's interesting, even though I'm talking about three different things, they're not different, they're not separate, they're not divided. We can talk about it as a trinity or as a triumvirate, but they're all absolutely the same. But we can separate them and talk about it, because that's what's coming up. So you have the Brahman that creates the energy, constantly creates the energy. But then you have Shiva. Shiva comes along and simultaneously, exactly at the same time, whatever Brahman creates, Shiva destroys, constantly, the same exact time. Constant creation, constant destruction, simultaneously. Now, the third little member of this triumvirate is the Indispensable One. Guess who that is? That's the one who's wearing your underwear. That's you. You are that one. You are the Indispensable One. You, through your observation of and experience in this world that you've created, you are literally manifesting it into existence. You have to be there for the world to exist. Without you, there is no world. Think about that. Without you, there is no world. It's kind of like, in order to see a rainbow, you have to be standing at 42 degrees, interesting, 42 degrees, relative to the sun over here and the rain over there. If you're standing there at 42 degrees, yep, there's the rainbow. But if you're not there, that rainbow isn't there either. If you're not experiencing the world isn't there either. That's what Rumi means, you know. You are the source of this. You are the creator of all of it showing up. I mean, that's so mind-boggling, and it's beyond staggering when you think of the implications of this. So how do you live your life out into this? How can you live your life out into that reality? Well, I liken it to a play. Let's say there's a character and an actor. And an actor is in this role, in this character. As this character is playing out this role in this play. And he's really liking it. He kind of gets into it. He's really, and wow, all of a sudden he starts to say, I am this character. I'm no longer the actor. I am this role that I'm playing. No more actor. I am this role. Well, what's interesting then, whatever happens to that character in the role that he's playing, he believes is happening to him, because he's identified himself so much, so completely, so utterly, so totally. He says, I am this role. I am that person. Now, there's another actor. The other actor playing another role. But he knows he's an actor. But he throws himself into it. He's absolutely involved 100% with whatever is necessary for that role at that moment in space and time. So if the role calls on him to weep and wail and gnash his teeth and curse the heavens like King Lear, and whatever it's required for him to do, he does. He plays it to the hilt. He's involved, not 99%, he's involved 100%. But the difference is he's not attached to the role. This one over here, this actor over here, he thinks he is the role. So he's attached, and because of his attachment, he is entangled by it. He's ensnared and entranced by all the mechanisms and wraparound things that the role has around him. The actor over here, not so much. He's in it. The actor over here is in it, but he's not of it. He's in the action, but he's not of the action. See, that's the difference between, if you want to divide it into three, detachment. We're not talking about detachment. Detachment is like, oh, I'm totally indifferent to and apathetic about this over here. No, it's not detachment. Attachment, that's what's happening for this actor over here. But this actor, the one who's in it but not of it, non-attached. He's non-attached. He's not doing like, the old thing about the spiritual bypass. No, he's absolutely involved. Full bore. He's getting his hands dirty. He's into the muck and mire of all of the craziness that are showing up on the stage of his life. He's not turning it away. He's not, it's much too, I'm much too spiritual to get involved with that. No, he's in it. He's totally into it. And it's interesting because if it's a 5-act play, let's say it's a 5-act play, and in the middle of the 3rd act, he suddenly knows, I know how this play is going to end. It's going to have this happy ending. We're going to go through a lot of stuff over here, but meanwhile, it's going to have a happy ending. I just get that, but it's only the 3rd act. There is no fast forward button. He's going to still have to play out every scene. He's still going to have to read every line. He's still going to have to do every action. He's still going to have to go through all of whatever this role is that he is currently taking before the end of the 5th act. He's just going to have to live it out. But he's going to live it out differently. It's in it, but not of it. He'll play it out, but he'll be free of the encumbrances the other one would be experiencing, because they would experience that as something that they actually are. So all of this is really quite a dream, but the challenge is to awaken from the dream, not by substituting one dream called once I was asleep, and you're going to substitute another dream called aha, but now I am awake. But they're both dreams. They're both dreams. You have to throw out both dreams. You have to just get rid of it all. And recognize that in the end, you really have zero control. You have zero control. However, you are 100% responsible. Isn't that a strange paradox? You have zero control, but you're 100% responsible for it. If you are the dreaming dreamer, I hope you're enjoying your ride, because that's what this is. It's a ride. And why come down and create all of this that you're doing? It's like going to Disneyland and just sitting there on the park bench in the middle of Disneyland, surrounded by all this great imaginative rides and stuff, but sitting there going, oh, I'm much too advanced to get involved in that. I know it's all an illusion, which it is. You go to Disneyland, it's all illusory. The challenge is to get in there and to ride those rides. And yes, I know that some of them, maybe not so many at Disneyland, they're scary. The Haunted Mansion or the Pirates of the Caribbean, something there that can be terrifying, especially if you're a little kid. But it's a ride, and it's part of what you've come to experience. At the end, everything is going to have a happy ending. But who you think you are, which is the body, like, oh, I am this hand, or that's not going to have a happy ending. But who you are does not have a destiny. Who you think you are, yeah, who you think you are does have a destiny, but not who you are. One of the challenges to get beyond is a mindset that says you're really working hard. I would suspect that, by this time, the fact that you're here watching this conference, this is not your first non-dual rodeo. You've been around the non-dual block a couple of times, and you've read the books, and you've gone to seminars and satsangs, and you've sat at the feet of different gurus, and maybe you've gone to India, and you've paid your dues. And you've clawed your way up this ladder. And you're on this ladder. And this ladder goes way up there, and it goes way down there, and you're right there. You've earned really where you're at. Very cool. And then you look above you, number of rungs, and maybe you see people like Rupert Spira, or Adyashanti, or Gangaji, or Eckhart Tolle. And so they're up there, and wow, look at how they're further on up the ladder. They know more than me somehow. And then you look even beyond them. And beyond them, you see, whoa, there's Nisargadatta, and there's Ramana Maharshi and Lao Tzu, and maybe some of the other major spiritual luminaries up there. And then you look way, way up there, and there's Christ. And there's Buddha and some of the big boys, the heavy hitters way up there. And then you turn around, you look down, and oh gosh, there's my family. They're my friends. They haven't quite gotten as much into it as I have. I'm further along. They haven't discovered Advaita yet. They don't know what non-dualism is. Those poor people. They're still trapped in their organized religions. And then further on down there, you could say, oh, there's, some notorious criminals like Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson, and then down below there's Hitler and Stalin. But the point is that it's really easy to stratify this, to think of good, better, best, that somehow you fit in some way, and that you're going from a not okay place, which is where you're at, to an okay place, or certainly a more okay place. You need to disabuse yourself of that notion, because that's self-limiting. That's making what you are and where you are wrong in some way. It's like saying, this is not as okay as over there. That There's something missing in my life right now. There's something missing and wrong in me, and that I need to find this. So the ego loves, have you ever noticed this? Ego loves to go out on searches. Oh man, let's go around this corner. Let's find what's around that corner. Maybe it's a new guru. Maybe it's a new book. Let's do this. And that's where we need to go, because we all want to go enlightened. We all want to wake up. And so that's what the ego wants to do. However, if you think back to your past, whenever you try to say, oh, this corner, maybe I just have to start becoming a vegan, or start meditating more, or practice yoga, or this, so I go around that corner, and then, wait, there's another corner. I got to go around that corner. So you try to go around that corner. No matter how many corners you go around, there's always going to be more corners. More corners, more places to go to. It's much like that old image of a guy sitting on the back of a donkey holding a stick. At the end of the stick is a string. At the end of the string is a carrot. The carrot's dangling in front of the donkey. The donkey sees the carrot, and he starts going towards it. But of course, the carrot and the donkey are moving along parallel. He never catches it. He's always on his way to someplace else. Can you just be with what is, and be in the possibility that how you are right now, what you're thinking right now, and feeling, and saying, and doing is just exactly what needs to be thought and felt and said and done. What stops you, though, frequently is a belief, a conjecture that you have, and you say something like this: look, I know what enlightenment looks like. It looks like, this flowing robe and long hair and eyes that are kind of heavenward, and kind of this gaze, and they're just wafting perfume and love and empathy and compassion. And they come out with all these wonderful sayings, and it just flows from their lips. There's never hesitation, and they're just so filled with love, and I'm sure that they're enlightened. Well, I want you to consider something. That your thoughts right now, I don't care what you're thinking, your thoughts are Buddha's thoughts. Your feelings, what you're feeling, those are Buddha's feelings. Those are Buddha's words. Those are Buddha's actions. It's consciousness breathing its life through your life. You are the song of God that's being played out through the instrument of your own body. You are that. You're just flowing it out. But if you can capture, you can contract all that, say, no, I know what enlightenment looks like. Enlightenment, an enlightened being wouldn't have my thoughts. My thoughts are, bitter and angry and upset. They're anxious and disruptive and violent. So it's this belief that you have that you know what enlightenment looks like. I want you to consider that possibly wherever, that's all there is awakening. All there is consciousness. There is no not consciousness. There is no not God. There is no not self. One self, one dream, one dreamer, and tag, you're it. So there's nothing that you can do to, you can try, oh, well, I can do this and do that, to move away from your debauchery and your depravity and move closer to God. If you believe that that's possible, you probably believe, well, all I have to do is I have to get more sanctity and more holiness, and I'll get closer to God. So I move away, with the debauchery, and I move towards him with the, no, give it all up. God walks on both sides of the street and at the same time. Deal with it. It's paradoxical. But if you want to go to paradise, you'll have to live in paradox. This is all very paradoxical. Can you comfortably be in two opposing things at the same time? Yes, you can, because that's who you are. Is light a wave or is it a particle? Is the cat in Schrodinger's box alive or is it dead? Is that sunset behind me? Is that a sunset or a sunrise? Well, yes, it depends on where you are. Emptiness is form. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. Well, yes, it's the same. Live with the craziness of it. Be willing to sit in the middle of your mess. Be willing to sit in the center of your own chaos. Revel in it. And I hope you're having a good time because you've created me to say these things to you. I had no idea what I was going to say. But I trust that what I had to say was what you needed to hear. So I'll just stop there and see if there's anything that anybody wanted to ask.
Thank you so much, Chuck. That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There are actually questions here. Denise actually has a comment. Love it. Personal responsibility from Denise. Nisar, firstly, thank you for the session. I have 3 questions. How does personality develop at the moment of birth? And how is it able to be different as children in the same household experiencing the same environment? Also, what is the difference between, we'll answer the first 2 questions first. How does a personality, you'll answer it, sorry. How does personality develop at the moment of birth?
I don't know. You know, for me to say, I know how personality comes in at the moment of birth, but from the perspective that I am standing in right now and speaking from, there is no history. That you had consciousness that showed up and these bigger people, you call your parents, who you created, by the way, they told you your history, they told you a backstory, and you bought it. And you started to develop this personality, but not a person, but you believed you were a person because they told you, hey, this is you, and this is where you sleep, and this is where you go to school and stuff. So it's very easy to take on the cloak of personhood and to walk in that space, even though you're not that.
Next question from that same person is, how is it able to be different as children in the same household experiencing the same environment?
There is only one of you here. I know you think that there's you there and these other people are there and, you know, everybody's watching and stuff. No, there's only one of us here. There's only one of us here. I know you think it's just you and I. There's only you. It's your experience is one consciousness. There's not many consciousness. It's one voice that's seemingly coming out of many different mouths. All of these things that are going on right now, they're actually, it's actually a monologue. It's not a dialogue, and it certainly isn't a conversation. There's one voice, many mouths, one consciousness. One is one.
What is the difference between personality and ego from Nizar as well?
Personality and ego. I'm not sure if they're I guess personality can be just formed by the actions. I don't know. I would have to really, you know, think on that a little bit. But ego, like I mentioned, is a point of view. Ego becomes identified with the avatar, the body that you think you are and have identified with, and that then takes on a particular personality as your entry ticket into the dream world that you've created.
Please said Chuck. Thank you. Lisa. Hi, Chuck. Chuck. She misspelled it.
Hi.
So I've created this conference and you and this question at once.
Yes, you created this all. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me to play in your play.
Next one is non-attachment the same as no attachment to outcome?
Yeah, non-attachment is being totally involved and you're not concerned about or committed to or focused on having a particular outcome show up as a result of your efforts. Any outcome that shows up, you're perfectly aligned with, and you make your default position in life yes, not yes, okay. No, it's an enthusiastic, underlined in red 10,000 times, yes. So you say yes to everything. And even if something shows up that you don't like, you can say no to it, fine. As long as you say yes to the fact that you're saying no.
I love that.
Isn't this fun?
It is.
Yes, I know.
It is. Denise goes, brilliant. There's no end to the corners when seeking and searching. The merry-go-round of the ego.
Yes, indeed. It just goes on and on and on. And it's the never-ending story. And I hope I want you to have a great time with this drama. Enjoy the hell out of it. Like I said, enjoy the chaos. Say, wow, my life is just falling apart. I don't know what to do next. It's a ride, and have a good time with it. It's a scary ride, I got it, but it's still just a ride. You've created it just being exactly this way, and it's all okay. It does have a happy ending. The happy ending is you're going to end up exactly where it is. By the way, let me quickly say something about whether or not you have any kind of choice. A lot of times, it's very easy to think that you are walking through a maze. You've been to all these corn mazes. They're kind of fun. You know, you walk into the maze and it's really good. And all of a sudden it's a dead end. Oh, I got to turn. And you have to turn all around. Let's see which one. And then you try another one and that's fine for a while. And then boom, it's another dead end. You have to go back and you keep on doing this over and over, making mistakes. Finally, you get out of the maze. Yay. That's how people see their lives, that they're always making mistakes. They have to backtrack, start over, do this. Oh, I made this mistake. I wish I hadn't married him. I wish I hadn't taken this job. No, you are not you are not walking through a maze. You are walking through a labyrinth. A labyrinth, very different. You know what a labyrinth looks like. You start off, you go into the labyrinth, and within a relatively short amount of time, you're very close to the center. Man, you almost got it. But then, the path starts weaving you away again. And then it starts to come back to the center, close, but not quite. And then it starts taking you way away, way up around the periphery of the circle. And you go, I'm lost, woe is me. And then finally, it comes on back and you end up in the center, which is the very place that you never, ever, ever left. And you become, the discovery is you are center. You live as center. St. Bonaventure, I think, said this wonderful saying, the absolute is a sphere whose center is nowhere, but whose circumference is everywhere. I love that. So consider your life to be a labyrinth, and you cannot get lost in a labyrinth. You cannot make a mistake in a labyrinth. To get to the center of the labyrinth, all you need to do is to keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. Your path is whatever you're doing right in front of you. No mistakes. You haven't done anything wrong. And listen, I'm saying this because you haven't done anything wrong and no one else has ever done anything wrong either. Let everyone off the hook, please. No one's doing anything wrong. I mean, Romeo and Juliet, was it wrong for them to commit suicide? Did they have a choice in that? Could they even choose? No, they can't choose. That's part of what's appropriate for them. It seems like they have choice. It seems like they have agency. No, you are living out a role. Say yes to the role. I love this saying that comes from the Stoics. It's like amor fati, and it means the love of one's fate, the love of one's path, of one's destiny. You look at that and you love it. You don't like it, you love it. And that means you embrace it in its totality. You embrace it in its totality with all of its comfortable parts and all of its not so comfortable parts. You say yes to what is. Yes to what is.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Chuck.
Sure.
Chuck, my wife and I are watching together. We are sitting side by side. Am I creating her or is she creating me?
The answer is yes.
From Ray.
Ray, the answer is yes.
And Ray also says, great job, Emerson and Noel, for the weekend and company. The weekend has been fantastic. This is pretty awesome. Thank you. After liberation, can I learn new skill and behaviors such as public speaking without identifying with the false self, of course?
Listen, nobody gets liberated. There is no such thing as liberation. It's like, how do you wake up to who you already are? Believing that there's a point when before you were not liberated, and then there's an event here where you are liberated, and then afterwards you're going to be liberated. Continue on with that. It's not an event that happens on this pathway going from your birth to your death. Forget about the linearity of time. This moment, the one that you're in right now, the one that you're experiencing, is the only moment that is, was, and ever will be. This moment does not have a past that it's living out of, nor does this moment have a future that it's living into. This moment is it. This truly is it. It's the only moment that is. And so to try to move away from that moment is silly. I mean, how can wetness leave the ocean? I mean, it is that. It is that. You are that. So it's just embracing how that is. Public speaking, if something shows up, I don't know. It's your dream after all. Is that what you want to dream, that you can speak or that you can't speak? It's up to you.
This one. Can I dream differently from the one I really am? Example, a pure land rather than this.
A pure, what was that?
Land is what I'm reading here. A pure land rather than this.
Oh, this is a pure land.
Susan Susan can add to that one, but yeah, can I dream differently from the one I really am?
No, this is I don't know. Find out. See if you can change. See if you can change it. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. But who is going to change it? Who is there that's different? That's separate from the dream. See if there's a you that's dreaming that becomes like I am a seeker. And I am seeking this over here, but that's dualism. And the ego, man, the ego loves that dualism stuff. That's why it likes to go looking. Likes to go looking. Let's go seek this and let's go seek that. But it's not interested in finding. It's very interested in looking, has no interest in finding, because ego knows the death of the seeking means the death of the seeker. And it doesn't want to go there. The prime directive of ego is to survive at all cost. Always wants to survive. Doesn't want to doesn't want to give up that. And if you identify with it, you become, that's your cloak that you wear. I am that. I am my thoughts and feelings and words and actions. I am that. Then you become defensive around it. It's contracting. You contract it around yourself, but you are expansive. You are not that. Let that go. It's very heavy burden. You don't have to carry that.
Thank you so much. We have so many more questions that's left here, but time is almost out. Yeah. Hey Chuck,
Yeah.
we should do a Zoom one day with all of these questions, because I'm a horrible interviewer and these people are asking really great questions.
Well,
one day,
sure.
One day, I'll talk to you. Sort of putting you in the spot. Do you want to have a closing statement, a closing remark for the conference, or do you want to answer a couple more questions? We have about 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I might mention something about free will, since that comes up a lot. Do you have free will? And again, that thing about the analogy of Romeo and Juliet. Do Romeo and Juliet have free will? Can they freely choose to not kill themselves at the end of the play? No, free will is really quite, it's an illusion. It's like the analogy that I sometimes use of, if you go out in the desert and you see a lake way out there in the desert and you say, oh, that's a lake. And then you realize, no, that's not a lake. That's really a mirage. Well, it's kind of silly then, if you identify it as a mirage, to say, well, let's argue about what the water temperature is of that mirage. Well, it's silly to talk about the water temperature of something that doesn't exist, just like it would be silly to talk about whether or not this separate person over here has or has not a free will. Just like there's no water temperature in the mirage, there's no separate person over here to be having or to be not having a so-called free will.
Brilliant. So brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that question came up a lot. Like, I've probably seen it like 50 times the past 2 days.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. It's a big one.
It's a big one. What's another big one? People ask about, well, this one. What's your advice for self-investigation, from Ben?
Self-investigation. Well, Maharishi has a great thing. Just look within. I think Carl Jung said, those that look without are dreaming, and those that look within awaken. You awaken to who you are, but it's self you have to look at, and then look at your looking, and then keep on going deeper and keep on going deeper, and then discover there's nothing there and there's no one looking anyway. It's more of a letting go. Meister Eckhart said, in the end, everything has to be lost anyway, so that the soul can stand alone in unhampered nothingness. Well, not quite the soul as he meant it, but there's this emptiness. But it's not an emptiness that's missing anything. It's a combination of absolute emptiness of empty, or empty of emptiness, with fullness. Combination, constant, at the same instant. Yes, it's a mystery. Yes, it's paradoxical, and yet that's what it is. It's actually both, and you are that both. And to recognize that you are everything that you're looking at, and that if you take a picture, any picture that you've ever taken, it's a selfie. I don't care what you're taking a picture of, it's a selfie. Now, this is your dream. This has always been your dream. It's your dream because you were always there. You can think of anything in the past, any kind of memory in the past, and you always showed up in those memories. You were never not there. You were always there, first person singular, downstage center. There you were. Of course, this is your dream. You're never absent. You're right there.
Well, thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you for the eloquence, the brilliance. Can we give you a big round of virtual applause? The sound of no hands clapping or clapping.
Thank you so much for inviting
Thank
me
you.
to hang out with you, and thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, everybody. We're going